Hey guys, welcome back to System Breakdowns, where instead of talking about individual techniques, we talk about systems that fighters use that allow them to be successful. This time we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorites, GSP, George Rush St-Pierre, fan favorite. The guy's amazing, right? I think there's no question that, he's kind of got like the EGOT of MMA, where he's got the 2 division champion, he was a Kyokushin champion. He was this wrestler that, for a guy who didn't wrestle in high school and college, he got offered an Olympic spot. Unbelievable athlete, right? Anything he set his mind to, he just succeeded at because of his work ethic. Really amazing, very inspiring, super humble guy too, which I really like about him. So today we're going to be talking about what he did in the ring that allowed him to be so successful. What was the systems in place? Not the individual techniques, but the total system and how it all pulled together. And that's what we're going to be talking about so you can start understanding how to build your own system for fighting. Okay, so stay tuned and let's get right to it. Okay guys, so as we talk about GSP, I do want to warn you first off that, this is the mark of a good system where everything's very interwoven. So I might not stay on strictly offense and strictly defense and things like that. I might bounce around a little bit because you kind of have to, because everything serves multiple purposes. The first thing I want to talk about is footwork. His footwork, when he does use that Kyokushin style footwork where he's going to be like a point fighter. And what he's going to do is a lot of lead side attacks, his jab and his front leg roundhouse kick as he enters. But he's going to stay out here, he's going to bounce in, he's going to throw his jab, and he's going to bounce back out. One thing I want to point out early on, and I apologize if I don't do this every time because it's not my habit, but it is his and it works really well for him. And part of the reason he does this is because he fights a lot of wrestlers. Josh Koscheck, Matt Serra, Matt Hughes. He's got a BJ Penn, a lot of guys with a lot of great takedowns and groundwork. So he knows that this is a constant threat, is the threat of them taking him down. And so what he does is, as he bounces back out, he doesn't come straight back. Like if you look at like a Wonder Boy, it's this kind of explosion back out. What he does instead is, as he comes back out, he's going to hit a 45, and his front foot is going to pull back, which is going to square him off, leaving him ready to sprawl at any moment. Now, part of the reason he does this is because he knows his counter shot is a huge threat. So guys don't generally press forward a lot on him because they're afraid of his counter shot. And so, he'll come in here, throw his shot, and then as he backs up, if they do happen to try to shoot on him, he's ready to sprawl. If they try to come in here, he wants them to get aggressive. This is a big part of his game, is drawing out their boxing so he can shoot underneath, because he has a very powerful shot and he knows it, and so do they. And so what happens is that it makes them timid. Now, in a perfect world, he's going to get them to come at him. He's going to throw a lot of hand techniques, a lot of that jab, and what's going to happen is he's hoping that they're going to come back at him with this. He wants them to start getting aggressive and start trying to press forward on him with his boxing, because he's going to use that and he's going to shoot underneath. And this is a thing that GSP does really, really well, is it's called a reactive shot, where instead of being proactive, I'm going to be anticipating their boxing to come in and be reactive and come underneath. And this is something that he does exceptionally well. And because other guys are aware of the risk of it, it means that they generally don't press him as much, which gives him the freedom to expand and contract as much as he wants. And they just kind of sit there, and their only option is to try to counterpunch him. But when we talk about his offense in a second, you're going to see why that doesn't work very well. And like I said, it kind of lures them into this, well, you're screwed if you do and you're screwed if you don't. So he stays on the outside, he throws his jabs, he throws his front leg roundhouse kick, and what he wants is for them to come in with boxing, because if they do, he shoots underneath. In the meantime, he steps back and he keeps his foot pulled back, because the only real risk to him now as he exits is for them to shoot on him. So what does he do? He takes precautions for that. He pulls his foot back and he's ready to drop on them. This defensive movement is a really important part of his game. The constant threat of the takedown and the constant threat of that in and out, it makes it so that guys are very vulnerable to his striking. And so what happens is that he's going to come in from a distance, from outside of kicking range, and he's going to wait for hands to drop. And this is a big thing for him, is that timing is a really big part of when he throws his jab, because of 2 reasons. One is that as my hands drop, it's really harder to throw my counter punch compared to if my hands are up and ready. But it's a natural tendency for fighters that as I leave the threat range, for the hands to drop, because they know for me to get to them, I've got to move into that threat range. What they're not anticipating is that what GSP does is he doesn't walk into threat range and throw. He goes from outside of kicking range, he explodes in, and he explodes back out. So this is a really big part of what he's trying to do here. And so the dropping of the hands is a big thing. If they do keep their hands up, this is okay. As they keep their hands up, I'm going to slide right between and throw my punch right between their guard. And this is what he did to Josh Koscheck, where early on in the fight, he was able to break his orbital bone because Koscheck kept dropping his hands. So he came in here, he threw his jab, and he got back out. And then what happened was, after he broke his orbital bone, Koscheck had no choice but to try to cover up high the whole time and keep this hand up here. And now you have a very concise pocket that you can slide in between. And that's what he did, is he came in between, and he started hitting in between over and over again. As he started to close up too much, he threw his hook, and he got back out. This is a constant threat that's going to happen. And in the meantime, their only option is to counterpunch you as you come in. So what does he do? He drops his head, and he keeps it low so that any counterpunches, he's not at a huge risk of. As he backs up, he generally will keep this hand high so that if anything does come up, he can kind of eat it on this front arm as he pulls his foot back and he moves out of range. So he springs forward here and backs out. Like I said, if they do press forward, that's fine. He's going to shoot underneath. If they try to shoot on him, he's ready to sprawl. The only risk of this, and this is what Johnny Hendricks did to him, is that lead side uppercut. One of the habits of GSP is he tends to throw this arm back. So if you're going to play this system, this hand has to be here, because what Hendricks did was he just kept catching him with this lead side uppercut right here. It's a big risk of leaning forward like this. But generally speaking, if guys do start to come in, he can bow in here or he'll just shoot underneath. And when we start talking about how he builds off of his attacks, we'll get into that a little bit more. But I think this is a good first part to kind of explain his basic entries and his basic concept. And like I said, he's going to take this from the outside. He's going to come in here and he's going to get back out. This way, he's never in the pocket. The only time you have to hit him is on the entry, and he's ready for it. He's going to slide in between your guard, and he's going to keep his head down, and then he's going to get back out. And he's going to mix up his attacks to make it hard to predict when that's going to happen. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, so now when we start talking about building on top of this, one of the things I want you to realize is that, so we've already talked about, he set this idea of throwing the jab. You can't move in on him because anytime you do, you got to worry about, him shooting underneath. If you try to shoot on him, he's going to sprawl on it because he's already used to moving back. As he moves in with these frontside attacks, he's got built-in defenses. So what he's going to do now is he's going to create what I call the threat and variable principle. And you'll hear me talk about this a lot on this channel. For those of you who have watched, you've heard me mention it over and over again. Where I create a threat, and it's a real threat. It's not just like toying with you. It's a legitimate thing you have to be concerned with, and you have to address it. And then I create a variation. Pop! Right? This is a constant concern. So what he does is he divides your attention. Half of your brain with GSP has to be concerned with takedown defense because at any moment he could shoot on you and you know it. So half of your brain is already dedicated to takedown defense. The other half of your brain now is thinking about, you have to divide it between, how do I counter him as he comes in with this jab? And then he switches it up. He throws a leg kick. Or he throws his head kick, right? He will switch it up on you so that now you have to start thinking about these variations. Once you start getting to the point where you start getting tied in with these, then he's going to add a mix-up. And what he's going to do is something like, pop, pop, right? He'll throw that jab cross or an overhand right. He'll throw the jab leg kick. Or then once he gets you on that, then he'll start getting you here and he'll throw the jab. And you'll see him building up to it. He'll throw the jab and then he'll feint the jab and shoot underneath. And he plows through that powerful double, or he plows through with that high crotch and stuff like that. And it's very, very strong. His takedown is so aggressive and so powerful, it's very hard to stop. And so he divides your attention amongst these things. And the Jake Shields fight is really him at his best. Jake Shields froze. In the middle of the fight, he couldn't keep up. You literally see him stop. He stops attacking, he stops doing anything. He just kind of stands there for the second half of the fight. And GSP just picks him apart using this. He comes in here, he throws his jab, he gets back out. He throws his jab. Jake Shields doesn't ever press forward because GSP is waiting for that. As soon as you press forward, he's going to shoot underneath. If you try to shoot on him, he's going to sprawl on you. So he keeps coming in here and picking him apart with his jab. He's out of range, he picks him apart. And then Jake Shields starts to go to combo, and he switches it up, and now he can't catch him. Or he comes in here, and he starts changing the way his attack. And then when he really gets determined for that, and he's like, okay, I got you now. He comes in, he feints, and he comes underneath. And then, of course, I want to throw in there's the famous GSP Superman punch. where because he throws his lead side a lot, that lead side leg kick sets him up for the Superman punch, which is a more powerful attack, where he comes up here, he pulls it back, and GSP is smart enough not to overuse it. But the once in a while Superman punch, and then a couple other things that he'll throw in, he'll sprinkle in a rear leg side kick. He'll sprinkle in the turning back kick, which his success ratio on that is very low, but the mix-up is the important thing on this. Because a lot of times he throws it too early, and he lets guys kind of run away from it as opposed to using it as a counter. But he doesn't care, I think, as much about that as he does about constantly threatening other things. And like I said, it's threat and variable. He comes here, 1, pop, 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 shoot. And then once you're thinking about this, he can throw this type of stuff. And because he's so far ahead of everybody else, and they're constantly playing catch up, it makes him free to kind of play around out there. And he's very good about it. All right, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, even though I've talked about a lot of the defense as I talked about the offensive component, I just want to recap some of it so that we're all on the same page, but a lot of this I've already kind of mentioned. You know, from here, like I said, distance is his friend. That Kyokushin style point fighting is a huge advantage for him because anytime guys, he's always outside of range. He's only in range for a split second where he's got built-in defenses and then he's back out. He doesn't run into a lot of concerns with the leg kick because from the leg kick, he's out of range most of the time. He has been caught a couple times, and when he does this, he'll usually pull his foot back, very similar to what Wonder Boy does. But from right here, he's not lingering in range anyway. Leg kicks a lot of times either occur as part of a combination, which he doesn't give them time to do because if they start pressing forward, he's going to shoot, or they occur as an opportunist attack from here. And GSP will do that. He comes in, pop, and he's back out of range. So when this occurs, they need to be in a range to do it. If they try to move in, he's pulling his foot back anyway. So his exit strategy is already pulling his foot back, so it doesn't make it a huge concern for him. You know, as far as leg kicks or body kicks and head kicks, once again, he's outside of range. He's not very concerned with that stuff. You know, if he were in range, it'd be different. But he moves in, he throws, and he gets back out. So he doesn't run into a lot of problems with that. If guys do power in, like I said, his biggest defense is his wrestling. They're so concerned about his wrestling, and they should be. You know, when they start to barrel in on him, he's going to come underneath and he's going to take him down. If they try to shoot on him, he's already ready for that. So the only time you can get him is as he comes in which case he has a built-in defense. And like I said, the person who had the most success fighting him was probably Josh Barnett, who caught him with that, or not Josh Barnett, Johnny Hendricks, who caught him with that lead side uppercut a bunch. And that was something that he took a lot of damage on because this hand hung out. But if he brings us here, it solves that problem. So that is the majority of his defense. All right. So now I'm going to spend a minute talking about some wrestling and some jiu-jitsu with him. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this because without a partner, it's kind of hard to show a lot of this stuff. I just want to kind of touch on a few points. Obviously, we talked about him shooting, him kind of grinding on guys, getting a hold of them. Grinding is a big part of his game. You'll see this a lot when, after he takes guys down, if he can get a hold of the back, he gets the seatbelts on the top of them. And his goal is to kind of hang on them here and keep tight so that he can try to come over and take a back. In the meantime, they're carrying his weight around, and it's very difficult for them to deal with. And he's done this to guys who are really high-end. Nick Diaz, he did it to a bunch. And Nick Diaz has one of the best jiu-jitsu games in MMA. You know, Matt Serra, another really high-end jiu-jitsu guy. He gets on, you know, like he waits, he gets a hold, and he breaks him down. And in the worst-case situation, this guy has to pull guard because this type of hanging on, it kind of limits the way that they can move so that their best defense for it is to try to recover guard. And what happens is, because he's kind of hanging on the back here, he's hoping to catch a leg and go over the back. But if not, he's breaking you down, making you carry the weight. And in the worst case situation, this guy pulls guard, which is great for him. That's what he wants anyway. His goal when he takes guys down, in fact, let's talk about that, is once he takes guys down, most of the time, he's going to end up inside of a guard. And I know I can't really show this here, but what he generally tends to do is he goes for a can opener. And from right here, he starts throwing these elbows. And the can opener serves a couple purposes. One, it's uncomfortable. Two, it's going to cause him to open their guard. And three, it's going to keep his elbows on the inside and keep him at a nice base. And what he'll generally do is, as he does this, he's going to tripod up. And as he tripods up, all his weight is forward, so he can throw these elbows and smash down on top of the guy. He's aiming for the elbow, but if he happens to catch forearm, that's okay too. In the meantime, it's going to open up their guard, and what it's going to do is it's going to allow him to step over. He starts working a half guard, and then he starts getting him mounts, and then he starts letting him roll so that he can take it back and stuff like that. And it's a system that works really well for him. He is really good at working out of half guard as well, but a lot of times he's usually trying to move from there, but you'll see him throw some body head and stuff like that on him. So that's a big part of it. In closed guard, as he's on top, the other thing you'll see him do a lot of times is bicep control, followed by punching and elbows as well. So that's a big part of what he's going to do on top. From the bottom, when he's been taken down, which it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. He's fought with some guys who have amazing takedown ability, and when he gets taken down, it's not a big deal for him. He has a very simple solution. And what he's going to do is, as he comes down, I'm not going to sit on the show because it's not going to show up on camera. He's going to pull guard. He's going to pull their head down and keep control. He might drop some elbows and stuff like that. But mostly he's going to keep their head down, and he's going to use his feet to push them back, and then he's going to get back to his feet. And he's very good at this. He gets to here. He recovers his guard. He pushes them back, and he's back up and ready to fight. And then he's going to take them down, and he's going to get on top. And like I said, it's can opener and elbows, and then it's passing guard. It's grinding them, letting them carry his weight, up against the cage or on the ground, and then he's going to take it back and stuff like that. He's very, very good at bouncing between these. His jiu-jitsu, of course, man, he's got really great jiu-jitsu because his wrestling is already fantastic, so he's great in the scramble. And he trains with guys like Faraz Sahabi. He trains with guys like John Danaher. And while you haven't seen him do leg locks and stuff like that in the ring, his fundamentals, he doesn't need to because he's so good at getting to a position where he can ground and pound. Let's see, make sure that there's nothing that I'm missing here. No, that's pretty much it. Like I said, his wrestling and takedown game followed by a good ground game is part of why he's been so successful. Because the thing about GSP is there's no good place to fight GSP. If you try to strike with him, he's going to sit outside, pop, and he's going to pick you apart. And then once you get used to getting picked apart and you start trying to counter, he's going to switch it up and he's going to throw in here. And then he's going to come in here and he's going to shoot a takedown. He's a constant threat. You can't move in on him because what are you going to do? He's going to shoot underneath, right? You're so concerned about that. And he's backing out the whole time, so it's hard to enter on him anyway. For those of you who have never fought somebody who does a point style fighting, it's very difficult to catch these guys. They're always out of range. It's constantly, and if you do move in, you're at risk of getting a big counter shot. That is a huge concern, but most of the time guys are so afraid of his shot they don't move in anyway. And then when it happens, he takes you down, and then he grinds you a little bit, and then you start to roll away, and he takes it back, you roll into him, and he gets in your guard, and he drops elbows. And it's like, even if you get back to your feet, you expend so much energy getting back to your feet that it gives him a huge cardio advantage. And his cardio is already much better than everybody else's, and he wears guys down. So that's the majority of it. I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching, guys.